Hello, friends. Hello, loyal audience. Hello, hello, hello. Dictators, detractors, haters, fans, you're all welcome. So, this has to do with my Mr. Arab here, Mr. Arab, here and here. Gave me a couple of ideas, so I wanted to bring them up and publish them. Now, one of them is well, both of them, well, there are plenty of things I want to talk about actually because I haven't made an update for a long time. I'm sure those spies, devils, and imps, come here and read my stuff. But hey, I'm going to put them out. I'm going to publish them, right? Now, those two discoveries, one is really a co-discovery, right? And it's like, should be a big deal. Another one is a big deal. However, the other one, uh, I have not finished testing because I cannot reproduce the symptom, right? However, it happened once and I tried it, well, twice maybe. I tried it and whoa. So I'm going to publish them, just like I said earlier in my supplement discovery, that just in case I fall off my feet, I would have taken a big secret with me, humanity. Now, let me issue a warning. Number one, do not monopolize these things, about supplements and whatnot, those miraculous discoveries that altered mankind and so on, right? Humanity, and perhaps animal kingdom as well, and cognitive and you better spread them. No profits, if for profit, you have to talk to the discoverer. Although Allah gave me those ideas, right? And you know, inspired me them, but he gave me exclusive rights as well. So you can't go like make whatever it is and then not talk to the owner. So at any rate, so I'm going to start with those two discoveries. I'm going to try to jam everything in one. Give me a second. I got all those. Uh, this is bad, man. I'm going to try to jam all these things in one video, but if I can't, I'll break it into different videos, right? I'm just killing processes here because they keep launching processes on me. And those processes, they basically control my, give me a second. They control my laptop and I don't know what they do, all that is illegal and I'm not okay with that. So bear with me, Mr. Arab here has a lot of patience, right? So I'm gonna make room for the CPUs so the video will be clearer. All right, so now the first one is really, I'm gonna talk nuclear. And you are like, what? What the heck do you know about nuclear stuff and so on? Well, first of all, I remember I told you in uh, uh, one of my videos, earlier videos about supplements and so on, that there is nuclear reactions. We are nuclear reactors. You just don't see it, right? This is true. Here there are valuations, right? Of the ideas and so on that Allah puts in my head, right? But this one, I don't know how it came and how it formed. It forms like bubbles, right? Uh, but it is true. It is true. We have nuclear reactions in us. So that's the first discovery or co-discovery, if you would. Just give me a second there. So you heard it first here. We are nuclear reactors, right? But extremely slow and much lighter than you think. And that actually, let me go back in history. Some 15 years ago or longer than that, I was in my mind and in my soul pondering about a nuclear reaction in a nuclear reactor's core. We all know fission and you take like a neutron or electron. I mean, who am I to talk about that, Mr. Arab here? But now all these discoveries, whether it's math or science or anything else, were not discovered by those who were PhDs or graduate of universities or something. Uh-uh. There comes, I don't know what they call themselves, uh, especially those Mossads, the dumb, they just like they're they're gonna derail my stream of thought. All right, so now, give me a second. Slow down my computer. So now, those people who discovered those great discoveries that altered mankind were not specialized. It's just their minds, and inspiration and their experience and what they know and so on and so forth, right? But these guys, as I explained earlier, they're the ones who invent the chess but lose the first game. Let's put it this way. So now, that said, you heard it here first. We are nuclear reactors, but that nuclear reaction within us is extremely fine-tuned and small, very, 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 very small. So if you want to fine-tune it, it's not like a core of a nuclear reactor where, like big explosions and fissions and are happening, right? So that, how do I know? I don't know how I know. But like I told you, Mr. Arab here, he just like says, this is what it is, right? So now I was thinking about it, fission and fuel rods, and from whatever little I know, I wanted to arrive at the point of, like a nuclear reactor from zero to whatever, right? To from A to Z on my own, right? I didn't study any nuclear material or anything like that. Although we know some. I mean, I know some from, reading about an extra electron hitting the core of a enriched uranium, and that splits, and the split, and it gets very complex. And I was thinking that I didn't care about the details or the nitty-gritty back then. What I cared about, what really troubled me was, they talked about fuel rods, which are the nuclear fuel rods, right? Enriched uranium, right? I don't know about plutonium, like maybe just enriched, right? Because they need that extra particle to, hit the other particles and so on. Now, and I slowed down. To me, if you have a fuel rod, then it should explode just like a nuclear bomb would, right? My problem was, and I was trying to resolve that problem, is how do you slow down, or how do you stop the reaction from turning into an explosion, mushroom into the to the core of the reactor, and then bam, everybody goes to sleep, right? Or gets cooked, with an air fryer or a convection of. But I got lucky. So I had an ex-friend, like we used to be. That 15 years ago or so, maybe more than that, I don't know. Yeah, maybe 17 years ago. And he's from my neck of the wood, So I am a Homsi, Homsi. That's where, say, Steve Jobs' father comes from, and so on, and some emperors and so on. But he is a Damascene or Damascene, like meaning from Damascus. And he's local, and he works in a nuclear company. And I think he's a nuclear engineer. So we were talking, and I asked him, I didn't know. I mean, I asked him, how do you slow down or at least control the reaction so it won't turn into an explosion? And he said, we use boron, right? Boron, right? And I was like, oh, okay. But now I didn't know what boron does really. What it does, it sucks up the extra electrons or neurons. Later I heard neutrons and so on, right? But that's a solution. But then I proposed to him. I said, I thought, because I was thinking about solution myself, I thought we usually, you atomize it. Atomize it means, like those sprayers, like you get very small clumps or masses. But then in my mind, I knew that was a problem, right? Because now distance is too great, even though it's very small. So the particles, the neutrons or electrons, they just can't hit the clump anymore, right? But you know what? That was a good solution. Why? Because although the efficiency, and I remember he said that in the US, the efficiency of a nuclear reactor is very low in the United States. Well, what I thought was, yeah, this becomes far less efficient if you atomize those fuel, instead of fuel rods, just atomize it, right? Why? Because now you can collect the resultant, whatever didn't explode, and recycle it again. So the process itself may be very not efficient at all. However, you can recycle, right? Some will become cesium. I think you split it in half, you know, similar to if you hit a galaxy in the core. It will not just go like dust or something like that. No, no, no. It will split into two galaxies, right? Very similar, right? An atom is a black hole. I explained that in a different video. Give me a second. So, you know, and then one day, not too long ago, I was watching, you know, those videos. Some doctors, you know, one guy, you know, he speaks like very detailed, like his videos about supplements and so on is like about 2 hours, sometimes 1 hour, and so on and so forth. They're different ones, right? And then he said there are studies, right? There are studies that say that those who were low on boron or boron had cancers, certain cancers, right? Cervical cancer, breast cancer, blah, blah cancer, and so on. Click, and it hit me. I knew, like I told you, that our bodies are nuclear reactors, but those reactions are very small and controlled, so you're not going to see explosions, right? So there is operation on atoms, and those cancers are possibly, those reactions are going out of control, right? Hence cancer, right? It's like when cancer spread, right, from one cell to another, it's like an explosion, nuclear explosion. You understand, right? Now, Mr. Arab here talks to me, and I may be wrong altogether. I doubt it, right? So now, boron, right, slows down that reaction. That's why. Now, this here gets very hairy. First of all, this is a new horizon, a new system. You know, like Arabs discovered the blood circulation to different cycles, and they discovered, like when you say the neuron, that's from Arabic, you know, al-nuri, al-asab al-nuri, neuron, nerve, nuri, right? You know, it's in their books and so on and so forth, right? Uh, 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 and there's the nervous system, and there's what lymph node system, and blah blah. Well, here's a new horizon. There is a nuclear system in us that is very slow, and to fine tune that takes hair splitting and a lot of study. I would say that if you get physicists, nuclear physicists, and nuclear scientists who really know the nitty gritty about things like that, with what you call you know, observation devices, detection devices, you know, like I think you'll be able to control that. Now, boron apparently is slowing down that reaction, or it's used to constantly make sure that the reaction is very slow, not fast, and so on and so forth, right? So here you go. Call this OSA's discovery, right? You know, and, that nuclear system in our bodies needs to be documented. And I have a feeling if you control, if you're able to fine tune that nuclear system, let me call it OSA's system. No, Mr. Arab, right? Mr. Arab invented this, right? Discovered this. So call it like a nuclear bioelectric system. Let's put it this way. I don't know. I mean, a name could be given to that, but keep credit where credit is due. Just, so I know you guys, like some of those guys who watch these things, they go and claim credit for it, right, and make money and so on. Oh man, that's low. Anyways, so if we document that system, eventually we'll know how to control it, and you'll do away with cancer. Now, will that boron, I'm going to say something about boron, right? So will that boron cure or prevent cancer with, say, for example, high radiation doses, like such as Chernobyl or something like that? I do not know, because that massive amount of radiation may, you know, put things way out of whack, right? And you can't recover anymore. But you can try, you know. I know there is, like, I think they give iodine to those who are exposed to radiation or something of the sort. I heard this like somewhere. What does it do? I don't know. But this here is a new horizon in the human anatomy and physiology. Needs to be rediscovered, and boron may not be the only thing that is involved in that reaction. Maybe other minerals and so on and so forth. Now let me tell you about boron as a user, right? So I looked at all the supplements I take, and I take a lot of supplements and omega dose on that and so on. And I discovered that none of them has boron, right? Why is that? Because apparently, if you mix boron with, say, with all those multivitamins and so on, it may destroy other vitamins and minerals and influence them, right? So you have to take it on its own. So I went ahead recently, very recently, I don't know, a week ago, and obtained from this big like Mart, right? And they have their own brand. Their own brand has like disclaimer, and so it got boron as well as collagen, the cartilage thing and so on. And collagen, I heard so many good things about that. But there's a disclaimer on the bottle that this company said we haven't made it or blah blah. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say the name of that Mart, right? But so I started mixing it with my megadose of supplements and vitamins and so on. I don't know, man. 2 hours later, like 2 hours later, I found out that my head began to really feel a little bit weird, right? Now I don't know if it's the boron or it's the collagen. So I keep trying. So what I'm trying to say is go see your doctor about boron. You may already have enough, and if you add more, what will happen is you will slow down the reactor score, and that may be problematic, right? The analogy of boron used in the nuclear reactor score to slow down the reaction, so it won't become a an explosion, right? Accelerated reaction and so on, fission and whatnot, right? So too much of that may be problematic. It may even cause cancer. I don't know. Too little of that may also be problematic, and there's a combination and so on and so forth. So you see your doctor about that. So I began to feel that, and it took about, it's a new feeling, the head was just, I don't know, I mean, it wasn't felt good. So I tried it again, and sure enough, 2 hours later, that's after, of course, I told you, like, I keep drinking water after the supplement on the empty stomach. You slowly hear that discovery that's changed, altered mankind, right? Humanity and, animals as well. So I got something to say about animals here, and plants and whatnot, new things, right? So now here, when you go to your doctor, he knows, right, how much you need, and you need to monitor that carefully. Why? Because that mineral is not like any other mineral. It's used in nuclear reaction and blah blah, and apparently it's poisonous as well. Not for humans, but maybe for, from what I heard here, is that they use it to kill cockroaches and cyclid and whatnot, right? So be careful taking that well, and if you do, my advice to you is take it in very little doses. Now, the one I bought is 5 milligram, I think, or something like that, plus collagen. I wish there was like 3 or 2. You may say, but that's very low. Well, if you didn't have any, that's better than nothing, right? But here, check with your doctor. Also, as a matter of fact, for other minerals and vitamins, I would separate them. They get all mixed up in this tablet or caplet, right? I would really separate them. Like I try to separate them with different compartments. Don't mix the minerals with vitamins, right? 2, here's an important fact. The dosage is not the same between an individual or another, or it's not the same for the same individual between today and, say, 3 months from now. So you always need to see your doctor about that, your specialist and so on, and what he will do, or she, what he or she will do is write you a prescription. That prescription he sends to to the pharmacy, right? And the pharmacy mixes it for you, just like those old Arab attar or attar, right? They used to mix your drugs with between herbs and to an effective degree, right? So I have evidence on that and witnesses and so on. Those old Arab herbs and so on, they did actually work miraculously, right? So and that's why you need to go. The number one, it's you can go buy it off the shelf, right? But that may not be the exact mix or balance for you. 2, when you take it 3 months later, maybe you don't need, say, magnesium or B12 or whatnot anymore, right? And that is what I'm trying to say here. See your doctor every 3 months or so, and he will write you a prescription. Now back to boron. So boron, you need to be careful, and this is a new horizon. You heard it first here. We are a new. Every living thing, depends on nuclear reaction. Period. It's a very small factor in us, and it's a system, right? And fine tuning it, you probably need, like, it's not like fine tuning a radio, but it's even much electronic. There are those fine tuning on electronic level that they're very minute, very minuscule, very minute, right? So I think that's a new horizon. Get going and start working on that, right? Now I want to tell you about the other discovery. Again, as you can see, this is a discovery. The first one I knew about us being nuclear reaction from nowhere, right? I mean, from just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put it in my head. However, the rest, my deduction is by generic observations, right? Or hearing things, and they're very small pieces of information, like not exactly extensive, books and libraries of books and so on and so forth. Sometimes diving too deep into the details prevents you from looking at the overall picture. So looking from afar, you can see. Looking from near, you may not see everything, right? So like I said, inventions and discoveries are not made by those who are specialized PhDs and so on and so forth. Those Arabs, if you have their genes, man, you'll be lucky. Anyways, so now back to the other discovery. The other discovery, like I told you, I discovered it, and it's a big deal, right? But I have not yet tested completely because the symptom that happened to me didn't occur again, or if it did in different on different level and so on and so forth. And that has to do with high blood pressure. So now I do recall that my mother used to have high blood pressure, right? So I began to have high blood pressure myself as well, right? But it's not frequent and not always and so on, but it happens sometimes. I mean, they talk about 120 over 80 or something of the sort. Oh, sometimes I will have like 180 over 85 over 100 or something like that, and so on and so forth. So at a while back, it hit me, like when I have that high blood pressure, I feel pressure in my head, right? My head, and that pressure has this feeling, and there's a little bit of what do you call it? Dizziness, not dizziness. There's a word for that. Give me a second, let me find it. Vertigo, or like you feel unbalanced or something of the sort when that came. But it's not a big deal. The feeling is different from what I used to feel before, Parkinson, MS, multiple sclerosis, or whatever it is that I had, and and the head and so on. That's gone. Oh, the stomach acid reflux, that's gone. Now I can withstand the hot water. I mean, the hot water I used to not even be able to put my hand under. Now I wash my hand with it, and I mean, the first discovery of the supplement made me a different human being, basically, right? So now let's go back. So last time, about a week ago or 2 weeks ago, no, a while back, I thought if I washed my head with cold water, it may help. And it did, actually. But now, a couple of weeks ago, I measured and I had that vertigo, right? I think it's vertigo. And the feeling of dizziness or not balanced, and then that's as if my head has inflated, right? My brain has inflated. So I went ahead, and this time I was a little bit aggressive. I went for cold water, really cold water, and washed my head, especially the backside. This time I focused on the backside of the head and washed it for about half a minute to 1 minute, right? Then I waited for about a little bit, maybe 10 for 15 minutes, and then I washed it again with cold water. Before that, I took my high blood pressure measurement, and it was 160 over 85, but I noticed the heartbeat was 55. I was like, my normal heartbeat is 58. Why is the heartbeat is so low, right? 55, and the low systolic, I don't know what you call them, is 85, but the high one uh, is 160, right? Unbalanced, right? So I washed my head, and within 2 hours, it's like you switched off an engine, right? I was relaxed and all that stuff. I tried it again and again, and it worked, right? So now I arrive at a theory. May not be a real theory, but it is a theory that my head, my brain, and as a human being, like we all are, right, heats up sometimes, right? And then it's confined to that skull space. The skull is for protection and other things as well, right? But it's a drawback as well. Why? Because when the brain swells because of heat, right? It, that's, you see. And then what it does now, it gets the high blood pressure to cool itself because the circulation now, right? It needs more blood pressure, circulation, and right? And I wasn't sweating. Uh, uh, so it gets stuck in what's called in programming an infinite loop. It keeps trying to cool itself, so it shrinks, right? But at the same time, it's generating more heat, right? So sometimes the best way to alleviate blood pressure or stop blood pressure bout is really by going to sleep sometimes, right? That's when the brain stops working and it eventually slowly, it shrinks back to its original size. But when I did the cold water therapy, right, guess what? That basically altered the temperature in my brain, and if it was swollen, no matter what, and I can tell you this, I didn't see it, but I know things when you heat things up, including brains, they swell, right? They become swollen, right? They expand due to temperature. That's well known. I mean, this is given. Even iron expands when you apply temperature to it. So that's what it is. So now I began a practice. Every time I take a shower, after the shower with hot water, I wash my head with cold water for about a minute, right? And then again and again and again, cool it off. And it works just fine, right? It works perfectly like magic. And now, guess what? I have discovered, I remembered something in the past. I went to take a test and I did so and so, and I should have cooled my head, right? Now, if you're between bouts, right? If you're in a boxing match ring, in a boxing match, between the rounds, cool off your heads because they expand so much. When we're fighting and they expand, that brain expand, and then it's confined to the skull, right? Maybe it pushes downward. I don't think so. Expands downward, but no matter what, the expansion on the brain is not healthy, right? So between the rounds, cool off your head, right? Like water or ice, or especially the backside. I noticed especially the backside, right? Two, whenever you go to a test, a couple of hours before you go to a test, cool off your head, really, really cool it off, right? Uh, uh, you can do cold water or you can do ice bag or something of the sort, really cool it off, right? And then if you want to fly, if you want to do anything, right, cool off your head. I do believe at least, if not all the reasons for high blood pressure, if at least one of them is really our brains expanding for some reason or another. You're either thinking too much, or if you have what you call that headache, excruciating headache sometimes, migraine, right? If you have migraine, uh, then go cool off your head pretty, pretty good, right? Now, sometimes our unconscious, some of us, our unconscious helps, right? So when you hear things in about medicine or whatever it is, some of us, right? Or whatever it is, the unconscious maintains. Remember, I told you about that crew, subconscious and unconscious, right? And then eventually, what it does, it keeps analyzing that and it keeps testing. Meaningly, when I was running like this high blood pressure for a little while, right? Eventually, it was doing all kind of analysis, right? And I am able to peek at it, right? Switch my brain into a debug mode, if you will, right? Debug. Ask a computer programmer; they will tell you what that means. Debug mode, and it's so that's one way to try it, because those unconscious stratums above and below, they are conscious by themselves, right? That's where you get schizophrenia and so on like that. So they are conscious by themselves. Two, they always they have access to our senses, such as feelings and skin, like sense, uh, touch, sense of touch, and visual, and all our physical senses. They also, like they also tap on those, right? And when you have high blood pressure and you got those stratums that probably from those Arabs, they start working a solution. Sometimes takes a long time. What they do also, they tap on experiences. They hear something, right? And they're very intelligent. They hear something in the past, right? But that is not relevant to that. But what they do is like try different scenarios and experiments from memory, from things of the sort, right? And so it goes, right? Now I am telling you, cool off your head, right? And I did, and it worked. Now, is that conclusive? Well, I don't know if it's conclusive because I haven't finished. Like I said, uh, if I get it another time, and I've been feeling much better since, right? Uh, so uh, so cool off your head, water all the time before you go to test. Every day, take a shower. After the hot shower, cool off your head, and right, you will probably. Lose your high blood pressure and other things as well, or migraine headaches and so on, and cool off your brain. Your brain is confined to that skull, and it cannot. If it expands, that's a major problem. That is really a major problem, right? I tried to find out about the methodology, my stratums, my unconscious stratums used to find this. Well, I did, like, what, maybe temperature, maybe if I could, speculation. It started speculating, but I related that uh, in in something that I heard in 1980. Yes, 1980. Is it the cause? Is it the source of this particular method? I don't think so, but I think somehow having that in my mind, my unconscious, and I forgotten all about it, right? In 1980. I was in Spain, right? And I was visiting a doctor uh, who's from Syria, and he's a distant relative. And he was telling me about certain baby or boy or baby or something who was brought to the hospital in Spain, right? And then he was like warm and so on. So what he did was something radical. He said the baby was like running temperature, and he was like apparently really in bad temperature. I mean, really, like they were afraid he was going to uh, pass on or something of the sort, right? So what he did, he said, he was like, what I did was he brings, and apparently the baby or the child was completely out. I mean, his folks were like very distraught, and it was like they gave up on him. Baby, I don't know if it's a girl or a boy. So he said, I just brought cold water, and washed the boy with cold water time and again, and then he settled down, right? He said the baby settled down. So that's what he said. He was proud of that moment that he was able to rescue a baby, right, or a boy from certain death, right? So now I don't think that's the source of it, but one of the elements that my brain somehow used from the past, about temperature, about expansion, about uh, heat, temperature, and so on. Eventually, what it did is put them together and then ordered me, like try this, and then I tried it, and sure enough, within 2 hours, my blood pressure settled down, and I've been using it ever since. Like for example, I just took a shower before the video, and I washed my head with real cold water after the hot water, right? Pour cold, really cold water on it, and the feeling is just different because now the brain, like I said, we are our brain, right? There are some autonomous functions in the heart and here, small logic, small brains here and there. But the brain is everything, really. It's the master. What's it? Master Blaster. Mr. Arab. He's Arab, Master Blaster is an Arab. And he wears a jacket at the end. Remember, Rabbi Mel Gibson hates us. He makes us look like midgets. Oh, you midget yourself, bitch, right? So he like a scientist and so on. So that's why I'm wearing a jacket. So anyways, That's a discovery. Cooling off the head, no matter what, whatever you do before you go to work, every day, just do it every day. You know, when your brain shrinks back to its normal size and there's no pressure anymore, you will be fine, right? You know, and go out and cover your head, you know, under the intense sun and so on. I remember when I was in Saudi in the 90s, right? I was hit with two sunstrokes, two times. I still remember. For 3 days each time, I felt as if there was like boiling water bubbling in my head. It healed eventually, two times, right? And even though I was exposed to the sun, like very little, not much, like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Also, one time it happened to me in Houston. I was working for this delivery company, you know, like grocery company. I used to deliver their goods and so on. And then one day, the tire, and that was in the early 80s, right? One day the tire blew up, and I had to change the tire. It was very hot, right? And then I had that as well. So at any rate, uh, these two discoveries are major, right? A new horizon was opened on the nuclear body, right? And that's very slow reaction, very slow interaction. I do not know the nature of it, whether it's fission or something. I would not, because it's not just fission and fusion. I think there is a way to just release certain parts of a particle, right? Or a nucleus or something of the sort. It's finely controlled. That's the thing that I don't know about how it came and so on. That tells me, Allah tells me, that is finely controlled. You know, like it's not like as savage as a nuclear reactor's core or anything else, but it's very small. You know, it's like you trying with the tweezers go into an atom and picking off a, uh, an electron or a neutron or something of the sort, or proton. It's very finely controlled. That's what I got, right. So that's here, and if you are able to document that system, that system, and be able to fine control it, I do believe that you will be able to get rid of cancer altogether. Now, in the past, I said cancer is good ways back. Well, I don't mean good like good for you. No, no, no. What I mean by that is there is a system, another system of variation. I called it. I knew about that like ways years back, right? A system of variations. Why is that? And again, it came from the same place. I didn't know what it means, right? But what I eventually came to observe is that when we're born for the same parents, why aren't we identical, right? You know, so there is that variation in order to make us look different and right, you know, physically, and that's where adaptation and change and mutation comes from, right? I think that's the same system, which eventually that's nuclear system that eventually, if goes rogue or missing some items or elements, like if you don't put boron in the nuclear reactor, it goes rogue, right? And then you get like those nuclear explosions that what is it? Starts slow, but then it grows according to Seuss, right? So there you go. Boron is important. Well, I don't know if just boron, maybe other elements as well. You need to involve nuclear physicists and nuclear scientists who really know things, right? So don't monopolize it. You rabbis, I don't think you're gonna come up with anything. So others like Arabs and others, they're focused and so on. They may be able to discover things. So spread it out, uh, 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 and that's what it was. So now like I told you, my supplements, I'm going slower, but I am definitely a totally different human being. There is another thing I discovered. Number one, that conscious part of our brain, that is the same between us and animals. Give me a second. That's right. That's right. You heard me right. Right? That's the same. It's those unconscious, conscious ones that are different between us and animals. So when I'm looking at you, I see what I see, I feel what I feel. That is, that's the same for cats and dogs and cows, but how they react to it is influenced by those and those stratums, the unconscious, unconscious, and so on, above and below, and so on, which really have our senses. They have different and so on, right? Gosh, I lost the point. Give me a second. Okay, I got the point. So memory, no complaint. So I discovered that there is really, you hear of evolution, there is no evolution. There is adaptation. Here's what I mean by that. Even though, I walk a lot, so my lower half is very strong, like, I can walk 100 miles. And even though I am 63 years old, yours truly here is already a grandfather, right? That said, there is adaptation, meaningly, I don't use my arms so much, right? Aside from carrying my giant backpack and so on, right? So now my elbows began to suffer, right? I began to feel weakness and frailty in my elbows. And then I thought, if it was a matter of supplement, I am taking that and my skin improved and my memory and my everything that in me improved. But why are these losing strength, right? It turns out that the idea of if you don't use a certain organ or limb or arm or anything, they shrivel, and that is in the brain. What it does, it stops growing them, right? It stops growing them. So I went ahead and bought those weights here, and now I do, the exercise, little bit of exercise, and they're improving. So apparently, with all that compensation by supplement and minerals, and which really made me younger, right? These began to improve, and then I realized that the brain will not just basically maintain parts that are not used. It will try to diminish them. That's part of who we are, and that is something else I have in mind. Oh, there's plenty where from that Arab, where that comes from. There are equations about our continuation and right, so there's no evolution, but there is adaptation. That means working out is necessary, eating food is necessary. I think at least 70% to 80% of the food we eat is really to feed the bacteria, right? To feed the bacteria. So to the colon and so on. I think so. I don't know. I would wager, right? That's what it is. So you need to work out. You need to be physically strong and so on. Two, I mentioned for those Parkinson's who are healing from Parkinson's, actors and so on, that they need to, if it's learned when we were little, say, like walking, it needs to be relearned. But I needed to add something to that. Relearn does not mean you go and hold rail or whatever it is, right? Walker or whatnot, right? That's not relearning. You need at one point to force yourself to walk, right? Because your brain, those unconscious stratums, conscious, unconscious stratums, if they feel like you need to stand, what they will try to do is they will understand that boss, the conscious part, he wants to walk, right, on his own. So they start growing logic and pathways, right? And now I do recall, and they develop that in the brain. I do recall seeing an Indian man, an Indian doctor interviewing someone who lost his arm. And he said, and I quote, that he still thinks or feels that his arm is still there. So you see, there is logic in simulation in those unconscious, conscious stratums. So before you take a step, right? Before you take a step, it has been taken here, right? And there is a decision. Why am I saying this? I noticed that collision avoidance, there is collision avoidance in us. That's not visual, right? That is visual and not conscious, meaningly, and I tested that myself. I used to, whenever I walk next to a wall or something based on my conscious, I would bump into it. So what I've done is put something just in front of the wall. Now I don't even see it, I don't even look at it, and then my brain, as it walks, right? Walking is unconscious, conscious process. it avoids it by itself. I don't even see that item that I put down there. Why? Because those unconscious stratums actually do see it, even though I am not thinking of it, right? You see what I'm saying here? So you need to go, like when you stand up and try to walk, you need to try to walk like children do. You know, they kind of shuffle and trudge and so on, and they fall and they get up again. You need to try that. And only then your brain will realize that 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 they need to redevelop that, right? Because they will their business is really to make sure that you're functioning correctly on memory level, on physical level, on every level, right? So that's that. Uh, are we, if you say control that uh, nuclear reaction in us, the nuclear bioelectric reaction in us, which is really small and fine-tuned, uh, are we gonna live forever? No, there's no living forever. Why? There is what I call the genetic expansion, right? Expansion. There is a genetic expansion on us. We may lengthen it, right? May live longer, right? But we may not live forever. Why? Because that, consider it like this genetic material starts growing like a plant, like a tree, right? But it needs materials, and it does, and it does, and it does, right? Until at one point we cannot continue anymore. Why? Because in the genes there is that design that makes us live so long. Even if we're perfectly we live a perfect life, food, nutrients, and so on and so forth, right? That will not make, we will live longer, yes, but that will not allow us. We may live as long as 1,000 years if we perfectly are fit and so on, but we'll never live forever. But that also has a secret intergenerational, meaningly, like intergenerational means humanity may live like 100 million year, maybe less than that, maybe a billion year, I don't know. But it's a compound formula system, it's a complex formula. So after, say, 10,000 years, 100,000 years, and so on, there's an overall, you can fix the engine, but eventually the car will crumble, right? So a species cannot live forever. An individual lives much shorter, but carries on the species instructions as well, right? How do we live more than we're intended to? There is something called mutation, and that nuclear reaction. I told yours truly here just opened as a new horizon for you. I think that's responsible for mutation. Sometimes every day there are mutations every day, right? But some mutations go up, some mutations just go down, right? If you consider the plane or curve, right? Some just jump up, some jump down. Those who jump up may not be valid. I've seen one myself. I remember when I was little. I remember this guy used to be like very large head, and people thought he's like idiot or something of the sort. One day he asked me. He was like he couldn't walk correctly. One day he asked me to help him, and he's not my friend, or he was much older than I am. He asked me to help him walk right to the house. So I did, and then when he was talking to me, I remember back then. His name is Abbas, right? In Homs. And it's very clearly, his head is really large, right? And he said, and I remember when he was talking to me, I realized back then that this guy is talking to me as I am a simpleton. He was trying to fit himself talking to people that he's much far, it's similar to us talking to, like genius people talking to babies, right? Or people who talk, or children, let's put it this way. I thought he was talking to me like that, like it hit me as if he's trying to just run a conversation, but he thought I wasn't as smart. I don't know what happened to him. I think he died and so on. So that is a mutation, but no, he was what I call an invalid mutation. Had he married someone and had children, that would probably be a new line. You see, it's a very complex process, right? But mutation is how we continue as a species, or jump up into a different species, and so on and so forth. I heard something about, or read something about somewhere, right? That 97% of the DNA in us is not used. It's superfluous or redundant or something. There is no such thing. Everything in us is used, right? Has a purpose. To speaking of boron, I had a feeling. Here's what I'm gonna say. That feeling is this: the boron, right, and other minerals. So, right, borons and other minerals are maybe in the rocks and in the soils. So they're processed by bacteria and then by the plants and. But what if the soil is void of these minerals? What if the soil is full of these minerals, but they're locked up in rocks and so on and other materials, right? Or mixed with other minerals? How do they get dissolved, right? Like underground, there's bacteria, there's worms, there's cicadas, and all that is very important. It's like an organic lab down there, right? That's what makes us live. Well, there are problems with that. I thought if, for example, we have an absorption problem, and that's the discovery I made when talking about supplements on empty stomach and so on, right? But then the animals have the same problems, right? The animals, you have to feed the animals minerals and vitamins just like we do on empty stomach, although you have to contrive away because their stomachs like are horizontal and right? All right, so let's see what else is going on. Well, the plants do have the same problem, absorption problem. How is that, Mr. Arab, right? Well, it turns out that the roots are intestines, right? They're turned upside down, right, backward. Now, the intestines here are not inside, right? Like us, right? They're like pipes or tubes in us, right? But in the plants, they're outside, they absorb from their surroundings. So their roots are intestinal tracts, right? And they have the same problem. Unless the mineral somehow gets to the root, right? Touches that lining or wall of the root, it's not gonna absorb it. So as you can see, plenty could be built on that. For example, water may actually dissolve minerals, and then the root absorbs that mineral and whatever it needs, right? And then if not, blah blah blah, bacteria and. But I hit a thought really hit me. Maybe and that is valid. I have evidence on that. That fungus really, which eats plastic, which eats there are fungus that eat plastic, that eats even rocks, right? Even rocks, fungus eat rocks. I've seen trees here in the US while I was traveling somewhere near New Mexico or something like that. Trees are stuck to the rocks, so how are they getting their minerals from the rocks? So I figured out that maybe it's in the rain, or maybe there's fungus that is dissolving the rocks and then releasing the minerals. You understand? So fungus, pretty darn important. When I was, give me a second. When I was young, Mother Amina, my mother, fed us fungus. Really, yeah, in the morning. They take the milk and in certain place they call it sorkia, in certain place they call it chanklish, and so on. And it's a fungus, milk made into fungus, right? So every morning she fed us fungus, right? I recommend you get that from the Middle East. And animals do eat the roots, by the way. Here's another discovery. That nitrate or whatever it is, fertilizer that was invented by someone or discovered by someone, and he got the Nobel Prize, right? Because it revolutionized the farming industry and so on. I don't know about that. Sure, you get bigger plant, you get and but is that plant as structurally and physically sound as it is when it's just natural? Look into that. All right, so plenty to say now. So Mother Amina was feeding us fungus in the morning. They dry the milk, I still remember, and they put it in clay jars and then seal it. And then a while later, it's like all fungus, right? And they put it in olive oil and so on. And they, every morning, she fed us that fungus, right? And that is in Syria, right? And you can find it here somewhere, but not the same as that. I remember one day I was playing soccer ball, and the soccer ball struck one of those clay jars, right? That my mother stored those, and it's sealed. And it's sealed by a cloth, right, on top, right? And then when I came, it broke it, right? Broke off the jar. So I came to the jar and looked, and I still remember those bowls of fungus and milk product, arishi, right? They have somehow moved up on their own, and they were stuck there like as if they're trying to go into the light, where that cover is. I still remember, and I was like, I still remember, how did they move up, right? On their own, I don't know. Well, so go figure fungus. So fungus is very important. I think it's the one that releases minerals, even in the guts, in the lining. Now, wait, some fungus is really bad, right? It'll eat more than it should, right? But I think in the large intestine, fungus is what really releases stuff, right? From fiber, from whatever. All right, so, I got plenty to say here. But this here is 55 minutes, so. There's really, really good discoveries here, but I'm gonna stop here and make another video. So today is June 15th, 2025, 3:37 p.m. And you know what? That's a new horizon. Start documenting that. If you master the that nuclear reaction in us, that's gonna be revolutionary. Yeah, I mean, we know from the Quran that Adam lived 1,000 years, right, or 1,050 years. Some people would go, yeah, but you're not gonna live 1,000 years. Like the species going down anyway. So, but like I said, I myself now I can withstand the hot water so like really so bad. I mean, it used to be like when it hit my hand when I was washing my hand, it would hurt. Now I wash my hands with hot water. That very same hot water. And guess what? Nothing happens, right? I feel warmth. That's that. So those two discoveries, one is a new horizon, and the cooling of the head, that should be regular, that should be there. Now, like I said, the animal is metabolizing all that it takes, right? So even if you eat beef with grass-fed and natural and so on, may not have what you need, right? Because the animal is also metabolizing and producing. That's why the like the dung of cows and so on should be actually the fertilizer. I remember when I was little, they used to use that, and soil as well, right? So one day I was working at the University of Wisconsin, and I was traveling, and I saw that this farmer had like a pile or of gravel, right? Soil and gravel, and the cows were eating from it, right? So, taking supplements is here to stay, all right? Just like food. I made this as a food. Yours truly here, Mr. Arab. Right? Let's see. All right. So I made that a mandatory now, just like food, right? Be careful of doses. See your doctor, and start looking at that nuclear electro-organic, or nuclear electro-organic, system in us. That's a new thing, right? And that is influential in us. Once you master it, you need a lot of very, very nano devices to measure it, right? To sense it, to measure it, and observe how it works, and so on and so forth. So nuclear reaction is not one and the same. It could be as violent as the near core of the galaxy, like Sagittarius. Could be as slow as within the body, like one electron at a time, one neutron at a time, and. I got plenty to say. All of your head. Those guys, I remember Muhammad Ali, the champ, may Allah be pleased with his soul. I think he got hit by somebody, and he sat down and they covered him and so on and so forth. Great man. Such a great man, that gorilla in Manila. So I think if he at that point cooled off his head, he will be fine. There are a number of diseases that are in the brain and so on, and cool off your head. High blood pressure, no matter what, every day, every time, between rounds, you go to test, you drive, and cool off your head. Believe me, it will increase your consciousness. Well, have a nice day. I'm going to stop here and make another video. Maybe not today. Bye now.